What's up, everybody? Dipcatcher Radio back again. Little late night stream today. Let's get into it. So today we're going to be talking about the Maximus HSI auction pool bid executor strategy. That's basically the only part that needs to be built so far over stream. Over the last week and a half, we've built the poly minting and redemption system, the HSI management system. So what happens when an HSI arrives in the poly contract? We built the hedron staking system, which started out just as an idea for dealing with leftover hedron after the auctions are over, but it actually, the more we were talking about it, it's pretty clear that there's a lot of value proposition simply in staking hedron. And so since we're already building this system, we just yesterday decided to make the hedron staking not just the cleanup, but actually like a core part of the value proposition. So that's something before launch, we'll have to determine exactly what percent of the hedron pooled goes to HSI auctions and what percent go to hedron staking. So that's what we built yesterday. And so basically the last thing to build for the contract is the bid execution system. So the original idea is to have a single executor, someone who just bids on behalf of the contract. It's a situation where you can't have any expectation because the executor would just be a volunteer. They're simply trying their best. They have nothing to gain. They also, per the current design, they have nothing to lose either for poor performance. But you don't have to trust the executor because they can't run off with the money. The funds are never in their possession. It's just that the executor is the one placing bids, and so you don't have to trust them. It's more like you're more just like hoping that they get HSIs, but there's really no guarantee because anything can happen. There's other than size, there's no advantage to be had there, and so the executor would just try their best to try to get the HSIs, and then the worst that could happen, they're two, the two negative situations are the executor overpays for HSIs, and that's something that you could do on your own anyways. Like you could, and it's something that's even hard to really measure, like what is overpaying for HSIs, because we see on the Maximus stake pools that if you value the HSI based on its current hex principal value, in the existing pools, you see, people paying above that principal value too, but they're not paying the whole end value of the end stake. And so, it's hard to even determine what to consider overpaying. But that's one risk, is that they pay way more. But something we added yesterday was that each additional bid can only be so much larger than the existing bid. And so that's like one safeguard against that. But, it's hard to, because it's got to be bidding and there's timing involved. There's all types of stuff involved. And so that's one, downside is that, or not even like a worst case scenario. It's just like one possible scenario is just overpaying. And then the other scenario is underbidding and then not winning any HSIs. Or what if the executor just didn't show up, just didn't do anything, just left it as is, and then they staked, they just left it as is. And the way it's designed is that if there's some period of time that goes without a bid, then all that hedron is just rolled into a hedron stake. So the worst case scenario is that poly simply just turns into a full hedron staking pool if the executor just doesn't do anything, because that's all they can do is just run the bid function. They can't do anything else. So if they don't do anything, then there's just no bidding, and then the hedron just gets rolled into a stake, and then poly is really just like a hedron stake pool at that point. So There's limited downside to this executor model. Well, I'd say more of the downside comes down to actually the executor themselves, because like even though most of the stakes come out, like the auctions start on the 13th, there's actually a huge a huge number of them, and then they do trickle out over the course of up until 90 days from now. So they do trickle out over time, and it could just kind of be a bit much, like for having just like that. That's like one of the even one downside of the executor model is simply just the logistics. Like, okay, you're gonna have a single executor basically being on call all day and all night until all the bidding is done. That could be weeks. And so there's some like legit, especially when they have no upside. Their only upside is maybe like reputation upside, but also they bear reputation risk. Like, what if the executor can't get it done? So there's some like logistical challenges with having a single executor. That's the main downside that I see in the current executor model. The upsides of the current executive model, one, is just trivial to do. Like, nothing needs to be built related to it. It's just like purely at their discretion, and then they can just make it happen. So that's a really good piece about it, is that it's already built. Like, meaning that we don't have to do anything to execute on that. And the other upside is that like a full discretionary executor model allows for perhaps a greater competitive advantage, because it's in no way telegraphing anything related to strategy. Like, so that's another benefit. It could perform better, but also on the other hand, some people have already perceived it as not being fully trustless. Although there's really just like nuance to that, is that like, to me, trustless means that like the person could be nefarious, and like, what's the worst that could happen as a result of that? And really, the absolute worst that could happen is that that the executor overpays. I'd say that's like the worst case scenario, just that they overpay. And that's really not even the worst case scenario. It's like, you could do a lot worse things than perhaps slightly overpaying for long-term hex stakes that you can now make liquid and save gas. So like, there's the consequence of overpaying is quite low. So that aspect of it, where it's like, someone there is someone who is executing these bids on behalf of everybody, but they could even be nefarious, and in the worst case scenario is actually quite minor. So that's like a nice balance, where it's different in the sense that it's not like fully just like where every other contract that we built, all like operations of the contract they're public functions, like anybody can run them. That is different there in that sense, but the way that we structure it so that is a tolerable risk is that we just limit the worst case scenario. And then also, I mean, even now that we're doing the like making hedron staking a more significant part, that part doesn't even include any type of discretion. That's just like you hit the stake button and then it's there. And so even like that helps mitigate the risk, is that like, if say the balance, just for an example, this isn't what the final version, but say for example, that like half of the funds are used for HSI auctions and half of it is just rolled into a hedron stake. If that's the case, then the downside is even further limited from poor executor performance. In general, even though it does have, it's not like a public function, like that bid function is not public, it's a privileged function. Although it is privileged, the worst case consequence of that is quite minimal, and we've even made it more minimal over time. So that's kind of, the original, that's the current solution. But I am open to exploring ways to make it not fully reliant on a single person, and then also making it so that the executor has some incentive to perform well, where if people can agree on what good performance means, perhaps some measure of T-share days per hedron bid. So the way when I'm doing data analysis on these HSIs, I basically boil everything down to a value of T-share days, and T-share days are T-shares times days, because that's a number that fully captures the value of the stake. If you just look at the T-shares, you could have a 30-day stake that has 1,000 T-shares and a 10-year stake that has 1,000 T-shares, and those are very different stakes, because the first one only gets, they have 1,000 T-shares over 30 days, so that would be 30,000 T-share days, whereas the other person has 1,000 T-shares over 3650 days, and so they would have 3.65 million T-share days. So perhaps that's the measure of success, and so we have some type of incentive for the executor to even further be encouraged to perform well. Some type of bonus. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that I'd like to make it so that the executor has that incentive, and also maybe even making the executor not just a single person, but any number of people that maybe have some rules with how, as a group, they can put forth bids. So that would increase the complexity, but perhaps that can be like a strong competitive aspect of it, is if it's not just one person who has to be awake when the bidding, for that whole multi-week period, but maybe that is just spread out over a couple of people, and then with some simple bid voting rules, perhaps something where one member proposes a bid, and then he needs to get some threshold of support, based on how many holders there are, or how many executors there are, and so maybe some type of thing like that could be a good solution for the just for the bid execution, where it's still an executor, where it's at their discretion, but the it's spread out over a handful of people, and so that's another solution that could be where those people don't necessarily have to trust each other. The users don't even have to trust or know who they are. But they, in order for bids to go through, some percent of them have to agree, pretty much. Let's see what the chat says. Hexlo says, "Hey there, what's up, man? Good to see you." People very excited about Poly aiming to be the largest hedron staker with possible leftover supply after bidding. Yeah, I mean, especially now that we're pretty serious about making just hedron staking part of it. There's really no, because it's such a what's different about Poly versus the other pools is that the main performance indicator is really just the price of Hex, or versus the price of Hedron. So by balancing out, by making it where the Hedron staking is even higher, that hedges against the risk of Hex not going up as fast as Hedron, or over at the time of redemption. If Hedron had outperformed the stake from then it would have been better off just holding that. And so by just making Hedron staking a larger part of the general Poly Maximus system, because it didn't take any extra effort, it's something we were already doing for cleanup of unused Hedron, but just staking some of that, it's like a hedge to the downside, which is actually a pretty, I think can be a pretty strong pump mental. And then also by having the Poly reflect the value of two independent assets, they're related, but they really are independent, with Hedron and hex. So having that kind of like dual coin stake treasury backstopping the value of poly, that could create a lot of really awesome speculative stickiness, because not only is, like with the pool tokens, the market's basically just pricing in future hex yield. But what this allows is for the market to price in both future hex stake yield and hedron stake yield. So that alone is an awesome just feat. Like that, I think is really the big innovation here. There's a lot of the user benefits of pooling up to be able to gain access to higher quality HSIs, but I think that the big deal coming out of this is that the market's going to be pricing in the future value of both. So that could be just crazy. Like during certain times of the year, there could be, what if like the market has a really positive outlook on the future hex yield and the future hedron yield at the same time, and then there's just craziness. And also maybe at some times of the year there's going to be massive discounts, and that's like a great opportunity for new buyers to be able to capture that upside in less time. Like it's just, either, no matter what happens, it's like a good scenario. So I think that having the making hedron staking, like a large part of this whole poly Maximus system, where it's really like, this is like a kick-ass hedron ecosystem portfolio where you have the best HSIs and you just have hedron staked. Like it's pretty awesome. So I'm pretty excited about the implications of hedron staking as part of the poly Maximus strategy. Hexlove asks bot versus executor, honestly. Well, yes, I mean, still, like, if it's a bot, you still actually have to rely on, like an executor who has the private keys that the bot is managing. So it's like that, which could be like, a good way to do it. That's something that's kind of hard to test because there's only been 29 auctions and none of them are active right now. And so it's kind of hard to test that. But yeah, I mean, and then also, a big part of just building a bot is that it like is able to make good decisions. And so it's, unless it's like a bot that's just like, probably I think it'd be like, rather than like a bot that does the full execution, perhaps just like scripts that are running all day that are always looking for new bidding activity, and just like giving, there's the site that you guys have seen on the stream the last couple of days. That's kind of like my like little hub for the HSI data from these auctions. So, but I don't know if it would make sense for it to be fully on a bot, just because it's like, how can you write a good algorithm when there's no prior history on this? Like you could just set rules, but then like, okay, what if that rule just like sucks? Or what if someone picks up on the fact you're using some rule and then they just like use that against you in terms of bidding? So, there's a lot that could go wrong with like a fully automated one. But also they're kind of similar things that could go wrong if you like just had the crowd voting. So there's kind of, it's like all these risks aren't necessarily differentiable. They're all kind of the same thing. It's like you either overpay or you underpay. It doesn't really matter why you overpaid or why you underpaid. You either, but also it's even hard to even know what is over or underpaying. So maybe there is actually high tolerance for, a bot that's not particularly effective, but at least it just makes it happen without much effort. Hey, will poly holders be getting yield in ICOS and Hedron in addition to the HSI stakes one? Will we be able to stake poly? I'm learning. Yes, so poly holders will be getting yield in ICOS and Hedron because poly will be also backed by staked Hedron. So they'll be able to get that. We'll be able to stake poly. So probably not right off the bat. There's kind of no need to. You don't need to always stake your coin. Like holding your coins just in your wallet is like, especially when the coin itself has, all the HSI stakes that it wins and all the Hedron stake. It's kind of like, okay, you're already staked by holding the coin. You're already staked twice. You don't need to stake it the third time. But maybe we might roll out the diamond hand system to this or something. Can you interface with Alex's auction site? Yes. Well, so I don't interface with his site, but I just interface with the Hedron contract directly. So that's what over this on the streams last couple of days, like all those connections that I make with it. That's the like all that information that I'm pulling in there is coming from the just the Hedron contract straight off the blockchain. Why not just use less Sherry and 2app from Uniswap? Yeah, so you could, but if the market is, or like all the other bidding is hot, then it's like, okay, what are you gonna do there? And if you set rules around it, who knows how those rules could be used against you. Like the problem isn't so much like measuring like what to trigger bids on. It's more that if everyone knows that you're doing it, it would be clear if this was in a smart contract, it would be plainly clear what the what those criteria are that trigger a bid, and someone could compete against us using that information, because we don't know anything about a competitor's bidding strategy. But if we telegraph our own bidding strategy, and if you write it in the contract, then you're telegraphing it, then it could result in worse performance. Just being frank says, stop doing 4-hour streams so people actually watch it. Hey, why don't you do less than 4-hour streams and then people can watch yours? No, we're doing these are working sessions, so the people that care, they'll watch it and they'll get the high impact insights that are buried in these, and then the people that don't, they'll get the secondary information. So, but yeah, I probably should make some shorter form content or do a lot of clipping and stuff. But right now we're doing this 30-day challenge to try to get this thing built. So I'm just hopping on stream whenever I'm gonna be working on it and just making it happen. Can we get Hexa to do the bidding? He misses out on minting his Hedron seat. He'll forget to actually bid, and then it'll just be a big Hedron stake. Calculator worth building to figure out the best HSI worth, and then to calculate deployment of poly accordingly, even possible. Well, yeah, I mean, so we're already getting this information. So here, let me share my screen. So I have this thing here that I use to analyze this stuff. And so say this is the number that I really care about, T-share days, because these are like the largest, basically the largest, longest ones. And with these ones we have, so this principal is 10 million. So I have these, the principal, the numbers that I have, the Hedron equivalent value is the principal and then the estimated end value. So basically what each one of these have, so here the principal value, so this 10 million hex times the hex Hedron price. So this stake right here would be 91 billion Hedron. So measured at the principal value. But who knows if that's how the market's going to price this? Because also at the same time, the estimated end value of this stake is something like 491 billion Hedron. So the range for what is the value of these is quite large, because that's the end value. Maybe, none of the perpetual pools are pricing in the full end value just yet. And also there were a lot of other things factoring into the premium that you're seeing on the pools. But the pools also basically never trade below the principal value. There's a lot less utility to these HSIs. Like really, like other users may have to discount the relative illiquidity of these HSIs, other than just selling it to ICOSA, but just selling it for the like the hex, or just act like selling it in general, like because you just think about if you want to sell your Maxi or your Base or Trio or Lucky or Desi, you just sell it on Uniswap. But if you want to sell your HSI, you either have to list it on OpenSea or try to sell it through the other marketplaces, or you sell it to the ICOSA contract. And then it routes through and is basically resold by the ICOSA contract 90 days later to someone else. So there's kind of a lot of friction there in the saleability of these. Like if like selling it to someone who's going to stake it, so or who's going to redeem it after the fact, and so it's kind of hard to even really tell what to appraise these at, and like how, like what is a maximum, like what is the maximum premium you would pay for this stake, because these stakes, like these are the things that you really want on these T-share days, and like what should the hedge cost per T-share day be? Like what is that like target rate? Because you're not only betting on the price of hex, you're betting on the price of hedgeron too in all this, and so like having something to just determine the worth and then have that part of the contract, it's hard to code that in beforehand, because as of now we don't know how the market is responding to these. Like we don't know how these bids are actually going to complete. Like if I was the executor, I'm because here, let's look at the first ones. If I'm the executor, see, these are the $1 million ones. Let's pull in the smaller ones. So here, let's do this. We're going to get ones including 100,000, because the ones I mainly look at are million hex and up. But why don't we look at that? We'll look at more that are 100,000 and greater. Okay, see, there's 850, so there's about 10 times as many HSIs between 100,000 and a million than there are 1 million to 10 million. So here, let's look at the ones that are auction start. Okay. So, we have these ones here that are like right out the gate. We have these ones, and so maybe the executor should just kind of wait and see how a couple of the auctions take place, because there's still some bigger ones peppered in here. Most of them, do start on the first day, and perhaps the small ones, the auctions will, I don't know. Do you think the small ones will wind up before the big ones? But I mean, look, an overwhelming majority of them happen right here. But yeah, that's these are all things that I'm thinking about related to just like appraising the value of these, because that's like the key piece. Daniel asks, another question I have. I'm an older investor. I don't want to stake more than 3 years. Probably worth getting into for an older gent like me. Yeah, I mean, because your poly token is liquid at all times, so you can choose to sell whenever. You don't need to wait for the redemption. And what's pretty cool about what we've seen in our other stake pooling coins is that the market tends to price in the future yield. So as of now, the Maxi token is pricing in about 2 or 3 years of yield. So even on those shorter term timeframes, you can still capture. You still have the chance to capture some of that future upside. So these are, for someone in your situation, these may actually be even the best types of things to get into, because they're liquid. You're having exposure to yield, and the market prices the future yield in. So it could be a really good solution for you. He's talking about doing it. Are polyholders somehow sheltered from hedron whale dumpers scraping profits versus holding liquid hedron? Sheltered from hedron. So do you mean the people just dumping the hedron price, or people that are like bidding against us in the auctions? Considering the glitch that happened with the Zen website, do you have a mitigation strategy if ETH contract glitches? Do you know what the glitch was? And the way to generally mitigate that is to, for my site, to have like a custom RPC, because if you're using an RPC from like some other service provider, like maybe MetaMask, or say just on the Hedron site, someone could try to like DDoS that and make that less available, to try to get ours down. So private RPC URL is a main thing to mitigate there. I don't know what was wrong with the websites. I thought that just what was happening is that people were just not paying enough gas and then trying to speed their transactions up, and then they would end up they would end up not being able to get their transaction through, and then they just lost rank. I thought that was the issue. Welcome to the Matrix. What's up, Hex Token? I invented the expression glitch slapped. Crypto Vince, hey dude, if you're in here, let's talk about, I tweeted at you. Let's see if, hey Vince, if you want to come up and talk, Crypto Vince said that he's won his fair share of HSIs. Do you want to come up here and talk about your experience in the bids, please? I would truly appreciate that. Everyone in the chat, throw in a V in the chat if you want Vince to hop up and share with us his experience as a HSI liquidation auction participant. Glad you like it. Okay, then collect signatures with expirations. 50% of people. Big call data string to only check if count of executors is high enough. Drip out hedron for bidding. 2 layers. Not sure exactly what you mean by that, but I mean, rather than collecting all the signatures and then broadcasting it, you probably just have the people that you would want to sign be able to just call a function and just deposit the signature directly. But I do like the idea about dripping out hedron for bidding. But the problem with that is, like, what if we have a good chance of winning one and then we're stuck by some limit that we imposed on ourselves? Okay, we've got a lot of V's in the chat. Yeah, okay, he says he's in. I'm gonna DM him the link here. You guys can't see my screen, right? Oh my god. He just sent me a DM that I've never seen this, but I should definitely. Oh, dude, sorry, I didn't reply to your DM. I just saw this now. But Crypto Vince just sent you a DM. Here, let's turn off the music if we have a guest coming up here. Wouldn't that be nice? Sorry, what? We've been having guests more lately. We've had Hex Love hopped on that one day. We had Sloth. We had Alex. We had who else have we invited up on the show? Do you have a headroom bag? Right, never talks about his bag, so the answer is cool. Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't want to talk about mine, but I do love Hedron. Like Hedron's absolute. Like I've had some awesome airdrops before, but Hedron is by far, like orders of magnitude better of an airdrop than other stuff that I have been dropped. Yo, what's up, Sloth in the house? We got Vince coming up pretty soon. Whenever he... Oh yeah, toss me a link. He's coming up. Kitty's little Vince tonight. I can feel it calling in the air tonight. All right, we've got a lot of voters. All right, guys, without further ado, please welcome our very special guest, Crypto Vince.
Hey,
in the house.
hey,
What's up, man?
what's going on, man? Yeah, it was good seeing you in Vegas.
Yeah, you too. That was cool.
Yeah,
I had such a good time that week. That was like
yeah,
like
yeah, it was a
it feels
blast.
so long ago, but it was
Yeah,
literally a month ago.
yeah, literally a month ago. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
time flies.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, wow. I haven't really looked into poly much, so, but yeah, I mean, I think it's great what you're doing. Just just helping everybody out by letting everyone eat pool. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty cool. Yeah,
thanks, man. Yeah, it's so. I mean, I don't know how much you said you didn't know much about poly. So basically, what poly is it's a HSI auction pool
yeah.
um, that also is simultaneously like a hedge staking pool. So it kind of has two aspects of it.
I
Um,
gotcha. Yeah.
and so the challenge that I'm trying to solve is how to do the execution of bidding
Hmm.
in a trustless manner.
Yeah.
So the best solution that I have so far is to have just a single executor who bids on behalf of everybody, where the only thing they can do is place bids per the rules in the contract, where they can't withdraw any money, they can't funnel it to themselves, and
Hmm.
so it's
Yeah.
kind of like a trust minimized type of executor model.
Yeah.
So that's currently the leading solution for this
Mm.
bid execution, but it's cool because you said that you've done some HSI auctions. That's really what I'm trying to learn more about are those
Mm.
dynamics and what your
Yeah.
experience was. And
Oh
so
yeah. Yeah, for
what
sure.
tell me about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because originally before Icosa came out, yeah, I was just thinking, I've got all this heat run because I was lucky enough to be a large hex taker, so might as well just use it for the only thing that you could use it for at the time. So yeah, I just started bidding on all these HSIs, and um I think I pretty much overpaid for every single one because yeah, I just I had enough Hedron to just outbid everybody. So
Hmm.
um
What did you
yeah.
consider overpaying?
Well, I kind of based it on the um I kind of used the threshold of basically um how many T shares it was worth, and also how much how, um like yeah, how many teachers it was worth, and how much principle of hex was in that stake versus how much heat basically how much liquid hex I could buy on Uniswap if I just traded that heat run for the for hex directly. So
Got it. So
um
you're kind of basing it off of if you were to buy and make that equivalent stake today,
yeah,
you've got it, and
yeah,
then you
exactly.
overpaid by like roughly what percent
Oh man,
did you
sometimes it was like multiples. Sometimes it was a factor of like 4x or 5x. Yeah.
were they what length were the stakes?
There were mostly Quattrocincos, a few 10 years, and a few that were like just like 2 or 3 years
Okay.
out.
I mean, if
So
you're paying
yeah,
4 to 1, it's like you're basically just paying for the end estimated value of a 10 year.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
that's actually
and
and
all,
what and
yeah.
did your bids get like were you in a bidding war and that's what led to that high price, or did you just
Y-
like
Yeah, actually, the
paid?
funny thing was there was always I was just always getting into bidding wars with other people, and we were coming up with like fun numbers like just adding like 420 at the end of everything, or like like yeah, just stuff like that. So
Yeah.
um and so yeah, my competitors had a little sense of humor, I guess you could say. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's interesting too because I was thinking about Poly, and thinking like how could you make this completely automated, because Alex specifically added that feature where the auction gets extended by 5 minutes every time somebody else bids at the end. So um yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting that there's gonna have to be somebody to actually execute the bids.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and also because you can't necessarily automate things in smart contracts. Like you can have, like for instance, um, like I couldn't do so like for the existing pools. It's like
Hmm.
once the minting deadline ends, now the stake is eligible to start. You
Yeah.
can't just make it automatically stake. Someone has to go and run it. And
Hmm.
even though like, and so the way I kind of semi-automated it was there's a tool that I use called Open Zeppelin Defender, and it's literally just a platform for managing smart contracts.
Hmm.
And so you can write scripts that execute based on timers and stuff. And so, there's some level of automation there.
Yeah.
But then the challenge is more so not like not for the sake of automation, but just like predetermining or like hard coding some strategy.
Hmm.
It's like who knows what those bids are going to be because it's like even though we've had it because so far there've been 29 of these auctions
Yeah.
suddenly on on that on November 13th we're
Yeah,
going to
there's
have
gonna be a crap ton of them. Yeah.
yeah, and so maybe
Oh,
that means that there are going to be discounts in there to be there and
yeah.
so it's like and also how do you determine what is overpaying or like even if you want to tolerate any overpaying because there's going to be
Yeah.
so many of them that there may be good opportunities. So it's definitely a challenge to do that automatically because a lot of that information we won't know until these auctions start to see
Yeah,
just how
exactly.
so that's one of the I'd say a challenge there. It would
Yeah.
be good if it was fully trustless, but the other thing that I worry about is just how good if it was like the wisdom of the crowd, just how wise is the average that is produced by the crowd.
Yeah.
Like there's probably like it's like if there's really low information people, really high information people, and a bunch of medium information people, the average of all that is probably going to be somewhere in the medium information people. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, if we're averaging out to just that guy, why can't we just pick someone then? And so,
Yeah, that's a good
the
point.
odds of their performance, it's probably equal, they're equally likely to overperform, underperform, or just perform averagely. And so,
Yeah,
like, if you're going to
for sure.
pick, if your system is going to average out to something that is effectively like you just picked, then you might as well just pick. So
Hmm.
that's kind of the thing leading there. But I think there's my main
Yeah.
issue is just some logistics issues related to having like one person. Like how long were your bids? How long did the bidding from start to end?
Yeah, that's interesting. It was like I guess you also have to consider like the convenience factor for people, because the the contract rolls over like basically 5 p.m. for me Pacific. So it's like, it's when, people are mostly are, trying to have dinner or whatever. So yeah, there's just kind of that life factor. But yeah, so for me, it depends. Like there were some big stakes that I fought for that literally the last part of the process lasted for about, I'd say, like an hour. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, basically an hour on top of the original 24-hour period. So if it's a really large stake, there's just lots of eyeballs naturally just looking at it, and there's a lot of people fighting for it. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, there's little factors that at the time I didn't really know how to evaluate. Like for example, I mean, naturally, the stakes with like the 10x Hedron mint bonuses are the most valuable ones,
Hmm.
especially after we learned about ICOSA and how if you're using those for the HSI buybacks, then you get that extra bonus. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just little stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they go, is the sequencing right the way I describe it, where uh, the bidding starts and then the the auctions are 24 hours long unless someone bids in the last 5 minutes.
Oh, somebody has to actually initiate the bidding process first. So,
Okay.
so like say like the hex contract rolls over, and then once you go to the like right now we only have the Hedron Doc Pro site to reference, but if you go to the browse liquidations and then the liquidation browser and advances in default,
Hmm.
um, it'll it doesn't work now. It just says like loading advances, and then
Yeah.
nothing shows up. But essentially, there will be. I think it's been a while, but yeah, basically on that state you can select liquidate or something like that, and then
Hmm.
it just starts the timer, and then you're basically the first bid, and it takes your hedron, and then the second bid, starts the process where their hedron gets taken, and then yours gets paid back once
Yeah.
they outbid you. So yeah,
Yeah. I think it's an
so
instruction loan liquidate to kick
yeah,
off, and then loan liquidate bid
yeah,
to.
exactly, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
So
And so wait, so then the it's 24 hours from the time of the first bid, or is it
yeah, 24 hours from the time of the first bidder liquidates the stake. Yeah,
okay? And then it could go on if people just keep bidding that last 5 minutes, it could just go on forever.
yeah.
Mm.
Theoretically, yeah. If,
Yeah.
if people, just keep outbidding, then yeah, it just goes on forever. Um,
So I'm thinking that like in our case, we
yeah,
may have an advantage of like being able to stick out, like because it costs gas every time to bid, right?
yeah,
And the so being a pool, perhaps the pool has a little bit more tolerance for higher gas to or like more gas transactions to get these bids. So like,
mm,
we
yeah,
could literally just yoink it up, minute by minute,
mm,
maybe like put in our bid, and then
yeah.
with like 3 minutes left, we just mint a bunch of Zen, and we just unleash the bots to try to clog the blocks and not let anyone get their bids in, or
That's
something like that.
finally a good use case for Zen. Right?
Yeah. For
Yeah,
gas wars. But
yeah,
no, maybe we just run a bunch of good accounting on all the
yeah,
hex stakes, and like try to boost the pool earnings or something.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
something to
yeah.
just fill the
Hmm.
blocks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, another thing I was thinking about was like how, like, if people wanted, people could just you can also add. I think the smallest increment is like 0.01 hedron. So
Mhm.
you kind of I guess have to watch out for people that like might want to troll the auctions by just adding a little bit just to mess with the contract. So yeah, just little
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, but I guess what's
Yeah.
good about there just being so many of them is that
Mm,
if there are people that are like putting, outbidding you by a little bit to troll you, there may be other options there, and then they're you know, stuck with the bid.
the
And
winning
maybe
bid.
that maybe
Yeah.
there's some strategy in there with like
Mm,
putting forth bids to try to signal that you're interested in some category of them, maybe get other people in a bidding war, and then like swoop into some other one in the last minute or something.
Yeah.
Like, that's another reason why, like, the more discretion there can be, and just the more, like, because you can't predict all these opportunities that may exist. Like, who knows
Yeah.
what's going to happen? So it's
Hmm.
hard to even like make it, more automated. But I mean, there are other, like, the main problem that I see is just like, if they can last 24 hours and then like potentially forever, then like, okay, if it's up to just one executor, just like fitting these bids that are starting, because um, we look at it's like they're starting, first one starts 15 minutes into the day, and then
Mm.
they're literally going all day long. Most of them are happening in this first week, but still
Yeah.
they're trickling out for over the course of weeks. and
Mm.
and like, how do you, get, like, manage that across, that whole time, just as like a single person. So that's the
Mm.
main reason why I think that, that having some type of like, uh, you know more than just a single person as the executor, but
Yeah.
people where it's like at their discretion, and perhaps like, there needs to be some like multi-user approval on
Mm.
bids, but something that doesn't require just like a single person to be awake for 3 weeks
Yeah.
during these bids.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of the balance I'm trying to, figure out, and
Mm.
that's why I'm glad that you're sharing your insights about just like the logistics of being in these auctions, because there have
Yeah.
only been 29, so
Yeah.
it's not like there's a lot of history to look at, and
I
also
think I might have won like half of those because I turned in like 15 or 16 HSIs for the coast the
oh
HSI
wow,
buyback.
so we
Oh man.
that's funny, 'cause yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I was looking at them because, so I think it's liquidation list. So like, there's 29 of them. So like, just say like 13.
Mm.
Um, I mean, look at this one. This bid amount is 369. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that might have been mine.
That's funny. Sounds like 369 million hedron, for the HSI. That is, so not, yeah, that had a 9x launch bonus,
Mm.
and that one is
Mm.
stake 593. So I mean, that's on the smaller end. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, yeah. So that was on the smaller end
Yeah.
of the HSIs, um, but yeah. So what,
Yeah.
do you know what the largest HSI auction has been?
Um, I think largest one I remember was I think about I want to say 28 T-shares, something like that. You know,
28 teachers. That would be like,
mm.
what? And was that a max length one?
Yeah, it was a max length. Yeah.
So like 23 times 8,000 or so.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm drinking some tea and I literally almost broke my tooth.
Oh.
Uh, yeah, so as someone who, as is looking at, I imagine you're thinking, plotting about the upcoming auctions.
Yeah.
Uh, how does the existence of a pool also bidding in these auctions? How does that, like, you know change your strategy, or what do you think the impact of having
Man,
a
yeah.
large pool?
It's it's tough because I was actually considering Poly my competition, so um
Here you
but
are giving us the false
yeah. I mean, there's not really much, people can do except, just the more hedron they have to work with, the bigger their war chest,
Mhm.
the just the more the more they can kind of succeed to outbid and but you really have to commit to certain stakes and make sure that that's exactly the stake you want because because I guess, you have to consider the opportunity cost of not of like just giving up on that stake and letting somebody else have it, and then trying your luck with other stakes, because there's so many stakes that are going to flood the market at the exact same time. So sometimes it's worth, I think, just maybe giving up on certain ones, and then trying to go for others that might not be on other people's
Mhm.
radar as much. So
Mhm.
yeah, um, yeah. I mean, yeah, I've been thinking of throwing some money into Poly myself, just so I don't have to worry about just like
Yeah.
buying all of them myself. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like what a scenario that could be created is that, like, you don't care if Poly is much larger than you, and you don't care if Poly is much smaller than you, but if Poly's right around your size, it
yeah,
just like,
yeah,
it just makes it more difficult because,
yeah,
as a pool, the pool can afford to overpay. You
yeah,
can't.
exactly. Yeah,
And so
yeah.
the, that is the group that I think, but also that's always growing. So like, what if Polly
Mm.
just like eats it up, and then
Yeah,
all of the sides are, which would actually be an awesome thing. Like it would actually
yeah,
bring a lot of liquidity and fungibility to the the stakes in the HSIs. Like if
yeah.
all of them were held in a liquid pool token format,
Mm.
that'd actually be awesome for everybody.
Yeah, if
Um,
the entire community has exposure to Poly, then everybody wins. So, yeah,
yeah, and also like if the more because Poly, it's like the HSI bidding part. It's not for like the ICOSA recycling. It's
mm.
we're buying these stakes and we're holding them till.
Holding them to maturity, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
and so the more of these stakes that end up in here, then perhaps maybe the ICOSA yield goes down, but also
That's a
like
good
that's a
point.
lot of
Yeah,
supply that never exists.
yeah,
And
exactly.
so
Yeah.
maybe that may even be a good thing for ICOSA to.
Yeah, that's
um,
a actually, now that you mention it, that's a good thing for the people that are staking in the ICOSA staking pool, because that's less, less new entrants coming in.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's because that's the thing that, like, for the people that, plan on just, like, perpetually, like, recycling the
Recycling
IQOS
them?
for,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
even people that are, like, relying on, the like, they actually never are gonna end their stakes, like, they may be too small to ever end, but they're all just gonna be, kinda doing that the whole IQOSA thing. If
Mm.
everyone is doing that and there's always new IQOSA supply coming online, then that's strategy is less feasible for more people. And so,
Yeah.
like, by removing HSIs that could otherwise be used to grow the ICOSA seller competition, then perhaps that makes that type of strategy more viable for more people, which is kind of
Mm.
funny. I
Yeah,
mean, the less people doing it is what, but that's the same thing as the
yeah.
premiums in the in the pools. If everyone is planning on using the premium to be able to, like, replace a long, like a staking ladder with a long-term stake, then no one's going to be able to use that premium because it won't be a premium. So it's
Yeah.
like the same
Mhm.
phenomena there with,
Yeah.
like, reducing that seller competition.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Mm.
And so for the auctions that you were in,
Mm.
were there numerous bidders, or was it really just like you and one other person?
That's a good question, because it the browser doesn't actually give you enough information about that. So you'd act like I think I would have to have had to dig through Etherscan to find if there were multiple bidders, besides the one the one that I thought I was fighting with. So
Mhm.
I didn't actually go back to look to see if there were multiple people, but I'm pretty sure in some cases that was the case. So um, yeah, I think there was one where I went back to look, and there I think there were three or four different addresses
Mhm.
fighting over it, including me. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, stands to reason that multiple people could have fought over that stake. Yeah, sure.
I wonder if there's maybe one way to do it, or like to make it more automated, or maybe just information that's used by the executor would be looking at. how much hedron that your competitors have.
Hmm.
So by reading this
Oh,
loan
yeah,
liquidate bid event that gives you the bidder address and the like their bid, you
yeah,
can look up like how
look,
much more
yeah. Get
that they
info on
have.
how much liquid heater they have. Yeah,
Yeah. And then, maybe also look at how much they have and all of the addresses that have sent hedron to that address in the last 30 days or like
yeah,
some like level two of, but
yeah,
and maybe how much hex they have to buy hedron with, or I don't know,
yeah.
something like that.
This seems like some complicated code. Yeah,
Yeah. Just some way to keep track of the competitors.
yeah,
That is if unless we just swallow up all the competitors and everyone, then there's
yeah,
no bidding. It's just
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I don't know
Mm.
how much hedron do you think would get contributed to something like this?
I think a lot because yeah, I don't know. I feel like most people they don't want to sit there and like try to bid on these things themselves every day because it's a bit of a it's not so much the time commitment itself that matters, but it's it's because the time commitment is at a specific time slot, like around the time people are want to have dinner and stuff. So
Mhm.
I think that little convenience factor will just kind of get in the way of people just sitting there and hoping and trying to win a bid. So
Yeah. Yeah,
um
I mean, that's a
yeah,
good value proposition that I hadn't really thought of, just like if instead of bidding on your own and having to be like on the ball for that whole
yeah,
time,
yeah,
and doing all the analysis yourself,
yeah,
like, you could put that into Poly and,
yeah,
so I guess in that sense, then, for the value proposition to really hold true, then perhaps it does need to have some type of like redundant executor
mm,
system. Like if that is to be like a selling point,
yeah,
then, some type of balance. There, I mean, I have a couple ideas. So like I don't necessarily want to do one where the poly holders themselves do the bidding,
mm,
um,
yeah,
because the you know this like who knows how that could be gamed by someone who just like wants to put money in poly, but really to influence the voting so that
yeah.
they
Voting can be manipulated in a lot of different ways. So,
yeah, or just like, kind of what I said earlier about like, by doing a big average, it's like you're basically just picking one random average performing person.
yeah,
And so it's like you don't really have an advantage there.
yeah,
And the like telegraphing of it, like if everyone's voting, then everyone needs to be like voting, and then a competitor can just be reading the votes as they come in,
yeah,
and then so that kind of, I think, makes it a little bit challenging. But
yeah,
kind of some in between, like an idea that I have would be to um, open up some type of contract that people can join. Perhaps, they need to have skin in the game, like where
mm,
you pay to be an executor.
yeah,
Um, and then that like group of executors, they they're those set of people that are voting to execute, and perhaps maybe you can't even really get around the like telegraphing of the bid, but also
mm,
maybe there are ways to make it where like it's it could be like where the competitor doesn't even know if what bids are put forth until the time ticks over. They don't even know if that bid is actually real or not, and then maybe offline communication of like people doing like final approvals, like come up with some way to kind of obfuscate like the bidding strategy amidst the um, just amidst the executors,
yeah,
but then also the doing it where the executors get some portion of like the stakes at the end. So
yeah. Kind of
like
it
above
incentivizes them to keep it honest and yeah,
yeah, where like if
yeah,
where we maybe set some benchmark of where they get paid every like the difference between some value that where it's like basically like if they got low price t-shares,
mm,
then the executors, the better prices they get, the better that they get incentivized.
mm,
And maybe if that's collectible at the end, it'll be
Yeah.
it'll be fair, and then it'll just incentivize those people to actually make it happen and do a good job.
Yeah.
And then also, that could just make it a little bit more. Maybe there's some competitive advantage there, like rather than like one person who thinks they can do a good job. If it's like a handful of people that together are, can think they can do a good job, and they have to like, especially if they have to like put money up to do it, where it's like money you don't get back, like literally like you are paying to do this work on behalf of people, like type of
Mm.
situation where they have to like, actually before skin in the game.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that is a good balance.
Mm.
So it's kind of what I'm deciding to do right now
Yeah.
is this aspect of it.
Mm. Yeah, maybe a team of executors, and maybe have them come from different or be located in different continents. Maybe that's a good
That's good. Yeah, that is
um,
a good,
you know,
yeah,
just just for
time
the
zone.
convenience, the time zone convenience factor of it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
still trying to,
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
hard because this has never happened before. So it's not like we have this
Yeah. For sure.
in the
Yeah.
past. And
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely curious to see what the liquidation browser in Icosa will look like once Alex finishes it, because um I felt like when you go into the browser and look into the info of the stake while you're bidding on it, there's some information missing from it, like the Hedron mint bonus, for example.
mhm.
It doesn't actually display from the stake on the Hedron.pro website when you're bidding on it. You only get to find out after. So
Oh, got it.
um, yeah, so
Yeah.
just little stuff like that I think would make a big difference in helping you decide which stake to go after.
So from this information here that I have,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
I have T shares principal, the equivalent value of the principal measured in Hedron, the T share days. So that's T shares times day stake, the Hedron minting bonus, the mintable Hedron from the stake, when it starts, the estimated end value in hex, and the estimated end value in Hedron. Is there any information you think would also be helpful in terms of bid?
Mm, uh, you sure? I think this is all pretty good info.
Maybe some type of like bid. Maybe though, if this was to be once the liquidations are live, then maybe it should also show like
Yeah.
uh, like a bid amount, bid like top bidder, like their balances, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe like a bid history list where it
Bid
shows like
history.
the last few bids, and like the last four of the ETH address, I guess, to just to see how many different people are fighting over the stake or something like that.
Mhm. Yeah, I wonder. I'm trying to figure out how people are going to try to fuck Polly.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
It,
type of things are people going to do to like try to force us to overpay or something?
yeah, I think
Like, how would you, if you were trying to just screw Polly over, like with your Hedron bag? How would
uh
you?
I mean, yeah, I just keep adding, I don't know, like just keep outbidding like one Hedron over or something like that. But I mean, obviously, the people trolling will also just waste Ethereum. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's kind of at a certain point it just becomes a losing proposition for the people that are trying to troll, because they
Mhm.
just waste money. Um,
Yeah.
but
And that's
yeah,
that's also another like factor to consider with spreading out the bid execution across numerous people is that like one person doing all the gas for the bids.
yeah,
I mean the gas, itself is not particularly intensive, but who knows what the
mm,
gas price is going to be with all these people bidding, and if there's
yeah,
any funny business going on with like people propping the gas price up or people unleashing their Zen minting bots
Yeah, yeah, that's a
to
good point.
clog the chain.
Yeah, because all like especially on day 91, well, I mean, like, yeah, in ICOSA terms, now there's going to be so much bidding that, yeah, I think probably the Hedron contract is going to be one of the top gas guzzlers that night, and plus Zen kind of. Yeah, I've been paying attention to the ETH gas price ever since the Zen launch, and it's kind of created a new floor where um like the minimum GUI is kind of hovering around like 20 or something like that. Whereas before Zen, it used to be like we'd have good days where it's like 4 or 5 GUI
Yeah.
sometimes late at night. So yeah, it's just gonna suck because each bid is just gonna be that much more expensive. So
Yeah, it's
yeah.
pretty wild that that's the I wish I was watching this when all that was happening.
Yeah. I was I was keeping track of Zen because I was minting from a couple wallets, and I think GUI like in the first hour after launch it spiked up to like 200 GUI or something like that. It was like insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like when what's the in stake gas. So if we had 200 GWA gas prices and let's say you had a stake ending. So what day it was like 1030 or something.
Yeah.
Say you had a stake ending right now that from the start that would be half an ETH to pay your gas because of that.
Freaking ridiculous, man.
Yikes. Well, luckily, if you had a stake from them, it's probably worth more than $639. But
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so yeah, that's that. I'm lucky that because that's something that with all of our products we really pride ourselves on like very low gas cost to users,
Yeah.
and it's like when Maxi launched, I think the total gas was like $21,000
Mm,
across all the Maxi emitters, and then with the with these launches, it was um, even less because we had
mm,
with these new pools we had less users, but the average user was like 7 times larger than the
mm.
average user in Maxi.
Wow.
So we actually had less minting, and also, I mean, the gas prices were a fraction of what they were back in May when we
Mm,
launched
mm.
Maxi. So,
Yeah.
we we pride ourselves in tiny, insignificant gas prices for you,
Yeah.
and then things
Yeah.
come in and just like
Yeah.
like a bull in a china shop.
Yeah, I noticed gas costs are one of your, top priorities when you're talking about these things. So yeah, it's a great way to, help the community save money.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I can't believe Zen, like, not to talk too much about them, but I can't believe they pride themselves on on, like, just burning ETH and I was giving all that money to the validators. I
yeah,
don't know, it's kind of the
and
opposite.
it's funny because it's like they're trying to brag about the demand, but that type of demand pushes the price down.
You know,
Like that's not like it's demand that is doing the opposite of what you want demand to do. Like you want
yeah,
new demand to push the price up, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
so it's um
People don't value what they get for free.
yeah, so that's yeah, I mean, I haven't paid too much. I did write a contract that let you actually it was supposed to be for
I saw that.
but then
I
like,
was kind
no,
of
like
half
it made
hoping
it
you
like
released it so I could use it.
well
I
if
mean,
you sleuthed around on Etherscan, you could probably find it to be honest, but I don't recommend using it because it basically makes it like 3 times as expensive in terms of
mm,
gas because for each
yeah.
address it has to deploy a new contract.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
like where you as a user could type in however many you wanted. The block could fit something like 100 deployments of these per user, like per transaction. Um, but so
Mm,
it wouldn't have really it wouldn't have helped, and it would have just made people pay more money. And I'm like, okay, what am I
yeah.
doing here? And so I didn't release it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
But
probably a
it's
good thing you didn't release that.
yeah. And so I didn't even mint any. I was building that bot, and I was going to mint mine through that, and then I was like, wait a minute, I don't even have enough gas in my burner address to make use of it. So,
Oh yeah, yeah,
but, well, cool, man. So,
yeah.
what are you looking forward to in the Hex universe coming up in the next couple months? Like, what's your outlook on what does the rest of the year look like in Hexico?
Man, well, honestly, I was looking forward to the day 91 auctions because yeah, just looking forward to scooping up a lot of HSIs and just holding on to them. I didn't plan on recycling any ones I get because it's kind of diminishing returns on the whole Icosa thing. So
Mhm.
yeah, I was just planning on hanging on to them, trying to snatch up as many HSIs with the 10x launch bonus as as much as I could, and yeah, just patiently waiting for a Pulse launch because that's what we're all waiting for. So um,
Yeah.
other than that, not much really. I was planning to put some money into Poly anyway, just because it's it's always nice supporting anything you guys build.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah,
That'd be cool to, and maybe if we do this whole group executor thing, maybe you should be part of
yeah,
that.
I'd be happy to volunteer. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was just looking here. There's
Yeah.
71 HSIs with bonuses.
Hmm.
Well, that's between the 100,000 to what is that 100 million threshold. So,
Yeah,
looks like, I mean, there's some nice ones here.
quite a bit. Yeah. Wow.
See, the largest one is a six 6 million hex
Wow,
stake,
that is insane.
8x bonus, 44 billion mintable hedron, and the
Wow.
current principal value of the hedron is, wow, the principal value of it is only about 20% greater than the mintable hedron.
Hmm.
So perhaps this this value doesn't include. I guess neither of these estimated end values in hedron actually include the hedron.
Yeah.
Um, maybe I should add that in there, but
Hmm.
yeah, I mean that is significant.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Wow, that actually is really close. The I guess I had any. I mean, it's like I've been looking at these, but I haven't really put that into perspective on those.
Mm.
Yeah, also that's like another way to kind of make the whole bid execution thing simpler is to just impose rules like, okay, these are the types that we're targeting, even though like it
Yeah.
maybe puts you at a disadvantage because like you're kind of
Yeah.
putting yourself in a box, like you know,
Yeah, you might as well
some,
exclude the ones like with, like low bonus or no bonus because those would just pretty much just be a waste of time.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah. Yeah.
are you gonna go to that event, the on
Uh
Pat's birthday one?
oh, the Hex birthday. Yeah, yeah. I'll be at that. So
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
Let's go hang out with the SoCal Hexicans again.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I might make an appearance there. I still need to see,
Nice.
but
Yeah, it'd be cool to hang out with you again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool, dude. So
Yeah, thanks for having me on,
yeah,
man.
man. Thank you so much for your insights
Yeah.
and yeah, because let's
Yeah.
see what Pat
Yeah,
has to say.
for sure.
That's a thought. All the competitors. Hexlov asked, did Vince take any screenshots? I think what he's
I
asking about is of the auction interface.
I actually have a couple where I took a couple. It's gonna be let's just yeah. It'll probably take me some time to find them, but
Hmm.
so uh,
Astro says, what if you limit voting to a multiple choice set of parameters? Yeah, I
hmm,
mean, that kind of goes back to what, it's like when you put restraints on it, it leaves less room for, executing on a good opportunity. Like if you're like, wouldn't it suck if there's like a great stake we could buy at a low price, but we somehow have limits that prevented us from being able to do it? And also if people know the strategy, then um, then it puts us a little bit of a disadvantage. It's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Aristotle says DAO. Yeah, and that's probably, if it was like a group executor model, then it kind of would be like a DAO in a way.
Mm.
But also, I don't necessarily, even though I mean that could just be the part of the game if everyone just voted, and for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And that's just part of the whole experience, is that you get to contribute to voting, or maybe you delegate your vote to someone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the the design challenge there, is like, just how decentralized do you want that voting to be? Because like you want it to be, high impact strategy, and if it's like too decentralized, it's like you're kind of diminishing your
Yeah.
performance.
Kind of,
Most of
just
fail.
creating new problems. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Poly tokens or votes for HSI and a DAO maybe will work out, maybe not. It's like and also you got to build that too. Like that's a
Yeah.
part.
It's
Maybe
a
the
whole nother
executors can
product.
propose and the holders can vote. Yeah, I mean, well, even that's like, because then you got to like rely on people, like, everyone to be voting, and like, what if they put forth like a great bid, and then none of the holders vote on it to
Yeah.
pass it.
Most people would just be too lazy to vote. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Plus one troll bot can mess up poly. Yeah, I mean, we just got to hope that we can outpay them in gas, and and just out stamina them. Like
Yeah.
Poly's the plus one troll bot. X Auto, I love how talented this community is. Honestly, we can fix a lot of problems in DeFi generally. I agree. Public function, maybe, I don't know. To bid or not to bid, that's a question. Yeah, I mean, what if we just like, if you get there first, you can place the bid or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do wish that these were more spread out, but
Mm.
it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, I think I'm gonna actually hop off
All right. Yeah.
now, but yeah, man, thanks for your
Yeah.
insight.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. It was good talking to
We'll
you
keep,
again. Yeah.
yeah, I'll keep in the loop on just kind of how this unfolds, and
All right. Cool. Yeah.
um,
It's all good.
yeah, man. Well,
Yeah.
we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. All right. Take care, man. See you.
Take care. Well, that was awesome that he can. I actually learned a lot from his perspective. So my key takeaways were that he had pretty high tolerance for overpaying for the HSIs. So maybe a lot of them will have some future value priced in. The timing aspect of how these bids happen, that was pretty important to know. And then that people that are otherwise going to be bidding for themselves are also interested in joining the pool. So that was pretty cool to hear his insight on that topic. Yeah, and then so we really got to figure out how we're going to do the executor. It's it's actually a very tough decision here. Really, well, the two ones that I'm leaning more toward, like the two ones that I think are ultimately going to be what it is. It's either going to be a singular executor model, or some type of group executor model where it's not a huge number of people, it's enough people, and perhaps coupled in with that group executor model is a um, some type of incentive to try to drive them to perform well, where people establish some benchmark that they for evaluating their performance, and then based on that is how they are compensated. So yeah, these are, I don't know if we're gonna be able to build this tonight, because these are actually we need to I think we need to think more about this stuff. Let's tweet about that. Then I'm gonna get off. We just had a special guest on the stream. wants to share his experience, insights related to the HSI auctions. We have a tough decision ahead of us to determine the optimal execution structure. Decision. Oh, you guys can't even see my screen. Damn it, we got the trolls in the chat. Aster says, wish I had more time to sit and think about it. Catching up. Yeah, I mean, it's like, what is the best way? We had Grant says, can't be automated trust, nothing has to be you and our gold key. I mean, that's also, that's kind of just looking at the replies here. Do you only need one? What would it entail? I nominate Tonto, but I would like to know if only types of stakes. I nominate Tonto. Yeah, but you probably won't do it because people view that as not trustless. Don't listen to Tonto. I'm not worried about the trustlessness. As a single executor model as is. Xbox says, I literally can't think of anything but you, dude. But you love the idea of that. Much work and responsibility. Would love to hear more. Seeing how executor is bidding on small size stakes. I would be a good executor for max bidding on HSI auctions on behalf of Maximus. It's like that person thinks that they would be good. I pledge my vote to you. You've already proven yourself to this community. Max is your baby. Perpetual's your baby. Poly be your baby, especially if you did bidding live like you when you code. No brainer. Take on a lot of trust. Risk knowing you're in the driver's seat. That's nice of them to say that. I would love to see the action live too. Learn how the executive thinks. I'd prefer it not be live. I wouldn't want to give everything away to the competition. Perhaps afterwards, though, I'd love a recap. The bids would all be viewable on the blockchain anyway, although I suppose it would be even easier for competing bids to view the executor's actions if they were to be streamed. I don't see that much downside in this. I get plumb stupid. I nominate. That'd be funny. What if Alex just is our executor? Certain investment mandate are objective benchmarks for HSI selection. No, the HSI valuation is a very fluid concept as it is an attempt to compare the future value of a hex stake versus the current value of hedron. Very tough to code rules, and any rule you impose on yourself, it could be a negative competitive, could be a competitive. Dixon Piper says he's willing to give it a shot. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We'll pick this up again tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody.